shows. Just never read slasher books for slashaholics. I'm done with those damn review shows. Done with being someone's co-host. I'm just narrating slasher books for the slashaholics. And when Jason walks in with his machete, or when you cross paths with Myers, or you dream of Freddy, whatever the tale, I'm gonna read it for you, cause I'm the 80s fucking slasher librarian Josh LaRue. Whatever I read, whatever you hear, there's one thing I'll promise year after year: you're gonna get the best of my best, this I promise you, cause I'm back in that fucking bloody slasher groove. Because the librarian is back in the slasher groove. The librarian is back in that slasher groove. That's a promise from Josh LaRue. Slasher books both old and new, written by me and written by you. Yup, now I'm back. No more distractions, no more co-host reviews. The librarian is back in that slasher crew. Just never read slasher books for slashaholics. The librarian is back. I even wrote my own take on Jason and Freddy. Started with quarantine and then I was ready, so I sent Krueger to space in celestial slumber. Then Jason went primal and the rafters had his number. My audiobooks have crossed 75. Now let's hit 100 and have a fucking good time. The librarian is back in the slasher groove. The librarian is back in that slasher groove. Just never reading slasher books for slashaholics. The librarian is back. The librarian is back.
A Nightmare on Elm Street 6, Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare, the fan novelization by Jeremy Terry. Chapter 18, Daddy Dearest. The water tower gleamed pure white over the treetops as little Maggie Burnham ran around her swing set. She howled with laughter as she looked back over her shoulder at her daddy, who was all legs and grabbing fingers. "I'm gonna get you," he called, laughing himself. His hair was blonde, his nose long over thin lips that had a sarcastic slant to them. His eyes were as blue as the sky, and Maggie thought she could just fall into them and swim in them like the ocean. She rounded her mom's flower bed, trying to escape. That was when the scream came. Maggie and her daddy stopped and turned towards the cellar doors to see Loretta Kruger climbing out, her face gray, her eyes wide and terrified. Loretta Kruger, her real mother. She looked up at the stiff frame of Fred Kruger, her father, and felt a prickle of fear. Mommy had gone down into Daddy's private place. Daddy had made them both swear to never go down there. "Fred, please!" Loretta wailed. She fell to her knees and clasped her hands together, begging, "I won't tell! I'd never tell!" Fred stepped closer to her, his long fingers clenching and unclenching at his sides. His beautiful blue eyes changed, as if a storm cloud had come over them, banishing every bit of warmth until only anger and hatred remained. "We need to talk, Loretta," Fred said. He never took his eyes off his wife as he said to Maggie, "Go inside, honey." Maggie took one more look at her mommy and then walked towards the cellar stairs. Loretta tried to call out for her to stay, but a quiet hiss from Fred caused her to grow deathly still and quiet. "I won't tell," Loretta moaned. Fred said something else, but Maggie wasn't able to make out the words. She heard a slap and a muffled cry of pain, and then a strange gagging sound. Maggie walked down the stairs into the coal cellar, glad that the distance robbed the noises of some of their power. She stopped at the foot of the stairs and looked around. This was her daddy's workroom, his private place, his secret place. Mommy was in trouble for going in there, and now she would be in trouble too. She saw a workbench covered in tools and several leather gloves with knives and spikes attached to them. One glove had 4 knives protruding from each finger. their blades covered in dried red stains. There were several newspaper articles hanging on the wall beside the bench and corkboard above, each clipping detailing the disappearance or murder of a local teenager or child. There were many articles. Suddenly the choking sounds turned to heavy thuds, and Maggie turned and ran back up the cellar stairs. She reached the top and froze. The backyard and the water tower were gone, replaced by a humid, dirty space full of leaking pipes and roaring boilers. She looked down at herself and realized her surroundings weren't the only thing that had undergone a change. She still wore the little dress, but the body beneath was undoubtedly her adult body. She reached up and felt the red ribbons holding her hair up in pigtails. What in the... Harsh laughter rang out over the pounding and grunting, and there was another sound as well, a rapid clicking sound. She looked to her left and gasped. An antique armchair sat in the center of an alcove facing away from her, and there was a Super 8 movie projector sitting on a small lampstand beside it. The clicking came from the projector as a film strip ran rapidly through its reels. The pounding and grunting sounds came from the movie being projected on the alcove wall, and the laughter came from the man sitting in the chair watching. Maggie glanced at the screen, saw the unburned living Fred Krueger standing over his wife Loretta, his hands around her throat. Her body was limp, her face purple, and yet he still strangled her and pounded her head against the ground again and again. "I just love home movies," Freddy said as he got up from the chair and turned to face Maggie. Gone were the deep blue eyes and blonde hair. The demon that stared at her watched her with yellow, inhuman eyes from a scarred and scorched face. "Freddy," Maggie said. "Catherine," Freddy said. He reached behind his back and pulled out a familiar child's drawing. Maggie realized it was the one that she and John found taped to the orphanage wall, the one signed K. Krueger. "You were such a little artist," Freddy said, taking a few steps closer to her. Maggie had to fight with her fear to stand her ground in the face of his ruinous visage. "No," she said defiant. "It can't be. I know who I am. I know who I am." "You're my blood. Only you could have brought me out of Springwood in your mind," he said, tapping the center of her forehead with one charred finger. Maggie couldn't hide the shudder that ran through her at his touch. "You can't be my father." "Why not?" he asked, black drool slipping from the corner of his mouth and running down his chin. "You don't think we look alike? To tell you the truth, we never did. You always did take after your bitch of a mother. No, I am your father." He walked across to an emergency exit door that had appeared in the previously bare wall and put his palm on it. Smoke hissed as the door burned his dead flesh, filling the alcove with the pungent stench of cooking human meat. "They took you away from me," he said with real anger in his voice. "But I made them pay. I took all their children, every last Springwood child. But that's all over now." He shoved the exit door open. Instead of another part of the boiler room, Maggie saw the familiar parking lot and street that set in front of the shelter. Freddy smiled at the sight. "It's time to start all over again." Maggie stared for a moment in horror as she realized exactly what the monster was talking about. "No, you can't!" she shouted. "This isn't Springwood. These people haven't done anything to you." "This may not be Springwood, but every town has an Elm Street," he said, laughing. He stepped forward through the open door, and it clanged shut behind him with an air of finality and doom. Maggie Burnham, the woman once named Catherine Kruger, sat up in her bed with the scream choking her. It was real, all impossibly real. John had been right all along. Freddy Krueger had killed every child in Springwood, and now he had been loosed on Central City, all because of her. Where would he start? Why? With unfinished business, of course. The image of the shelter's parking lot seen through the open emergency exit swam into her mind, followed by another image. Tracy, all alone now that her two friends were gone. All alone save for Maggie and Doc. And neither she nor Doc knew that the dream demon was freed from his prison. She kicked the sweat-soaked sheets off of her and scrambled for her dresser, throwing on the first pieces of clothing she touched. She grabbed her keys and sprinted from the room, her heart hammering in her chest, Tracy's name on her lips. Chapter 19. Tracy Fights Back. Tracy stood at the sink in the communal bathroom shared by all of the girls at the shelter. She stared at herself in the large mirror hung on the wall, took in her blonde hair tied back in a no-nonsense ponytail and her long, smooth legs below the hem of her t-shirt. Behind her, the 3 toilet stalls sat vacant, their doors closed. A strange scent hung on the air, not your typical bathroom smell, but one more akin to the smell of the slaughterhouse, half a mile up the road from her grandmother's house. It was the smell of spilled blood and rotten meat. Maybe a rat died in the walls or something, she thought as she bent to splash water on her face. She heard the creak of a stall door opening behind her and stood back up. The bathroom reflected in the mirror was gone, replaced by a dirty, run-down kitchen with peeling linoleum floors and chipped Formica countertops. A door to the right of the stove was open, and Tracy could see a short hallway beyond, and the light of a television flickering on one wall. She turned around, hoping it was all in her head, and found it was not. The bathroom had vanished, and presumably the shelter with it, to be replaced by a ghost from Tracy's past. Shit, she thought as old fears rose up inside of her, threatening to paralyze her and leave her a quivering, blubbering mass curled up on the floor. Not here, I can't be back here. Tracy girl, called a voice from down the hall, sending a spike of pain through her chest. Daddy's home. Daddy, she whispered, crossing her arms protectively over her breast. You're dead. A large figure stepped out of the television room into the hallway. The face was in shadow, but she didn't need to see it to know who was coming towards her. She would know those rounded shoulders and that duck waddle anywhere, because she saw it in her nightmares most nights. I'm home, darling, he said, his voice somehow bubbly as if it issued from vocal cords loosened by decay. He shambled forward like a zombie from a George Romero fright flick. The light from the kitchen fell on his legs, the gray flesh of his stomach that hung below the hem of his food-stained t-shirt. Sickly green mold grew in the sagging bowl of his belly button. She saw his hands with their yellow, too long fingernails. They clenched and unclenched rapidly, pawing at the air in anticipation of pawing at her. She turned back to the sink, which had changed from the bathroom sink at the shelter into the rusted old sink from the crappy tract house she'd shared with this monster she called father. There was a towel to her left, a toaster to her right. She picked them up and quickly tied the towel around the toaster, fashioning a makeshift weapon. He was in the kitchen now. She could track his approach by the sound of his shuffling footsteps on the floor. Her skin crawled as if bugs lived and squirmed beneath it. That was how he made her feel, as if insects writhed under her flesh. She heard him loosening his belt, the rasp of his zipper being undone. Then she felt his fat fingers caressing her shoulders. They were wet, slimy with his sweat or some other awful fluid. It was like having slugs crawling down her bare back. Come say hello, he crooned into her ear. His breath was icy on her skin, and it smelled like chunky, curdled milk. Tracy felt tears falling down her cheeks and hated herself for it. "I don't want to, Daddy," she whimpered. The fingers slid lower on her shoulder blades, her spine. "Come on," he cajoled. "Give Daddy some honey." The cold starfish hands were at her lower back. Soon they would reach her waist, and then... "No one has to know." Something snapped inside her, and Tracy spun around and landed a palm heel strike to his bulbous nose. Black blood squirted from the nostrils, and she saw that there were little white worms twisting and turning in the fetid fluid. She kicked him in the stomach, the groin, the face. She pummeled him, not realizing that she was screaming. "You're not my daddy! You're not my daddy! You're not my daddy!" He did not go down, did not stop reaching for her. She felt the tips of his fingers brush across one nipple. "Some honey." She tried to retreat, hit the sink behind her. There was nowhere to go. Her hand brushed against the towel-wrapped toaster. She grabbed the cloth and swung it in a sideways arc. The toaster collided with the side of his head with a resounding crunch. He went to one knee and she followed him down, pounding his head with the weapon until the toaster was a broken husk rattling inside the towel. "Here!" she shouted, knocking him over onto his back and hitting him again. "Do you love me now? Do you love me now?" His fat face was a ruin. Thick blood pooled around his dented head, and she could see the white of exposed skull through a dangling flap of scalp that hung down over his left eye. He smiled, showing his shattered teeth. "Ah," he said, his voice changed. Freddy's voice now. "No honey for your daddy?" Tracy backed away as he stood to his feet. His skin and clothes softened, ran like melting wax to reveal Freddy Krueger with a jaunty smile on his burned face and his bladed glove on his right hand. "What's with kids today?" he asked. "No respect." Tracy raised the toaster over her shoulders, ready to strike the moment he came for her. "I'm not afraid of you. You can't hurt me anymore." Freddy's smile grew wider, revealing filthy teeth. He reached behind him and pulled something from thin air. He held it up, shaking it at her, and Tracy cried out when she saw that it was a severed human ear, complete with a hearing aid. "Oh God," she thought, "that's Carlos's ear." "I'm sorry," Freddy said. "You'll have to speak up. This is my deaf ear." "You bastard!" "Oh, like I haven't heard that before." He chuckled. Tracy skirted along the counter, trying to get around him towards the hallway door. "This is my dream, and I'll go where I want." Freddy stood and let her pass, waiting for her reaction. Tracy saw why and felt some of her hope die. The hallway door was gone, as were the windows over the sink, leaving only solid walls on every side. She glanced back to Freddy, who shrugged and then took a fighting stance, his gloved hand held ready at his side. "It may be your dream, but it's my rules!" Freddy moved in on her. She eyed the glove, felt the weight of her own makeshift weapon. It might have been enough before, but she was sure it would fall short against the real thing. She had to get out before it was too late. Her gaze fell on the old gas stove by the sink, and an idea came to life in her mind. She ran to it, twisted the knobs, heard the flump as the burners ignited into bright blue flames. She held her hands out over them, felt the heat rising. "Careful now, honey," Freddy said. "You mustn't hurt yourself. That's my job!" Freddy raised the glove over his head, ready to rend and rip. Suddenly, a voice filled the air around them, and Freddy turned to look for the source. "Tracy!" called the voice of Doc Cotto. "Where are you, girl? Wake yourself up! Get the hell out!" Freddy turned, realizing what she was about to do. He reached for her, but Tracy was faster. She slammed both of her wrists down on the burners and screamed as white-hot agony seared through her. Maggie sprinted through the shelter's corridors, her heart pounding a desperate drumbeat in her chest. She turned a corner, saw the door of the girls' dormitory, and redoubled her speed. She grabbed the knob, started to turn it, and that was when the screaming started inside. She burst inside, not bothering to answer the other girls' questions as she ran by their rooms to the last door on the left. A poster of Rick Springfield hung crookedly on it, and Maggie nearly tore it in two as she flung the door open and went inside. Tracy was there on her bed, awake and alive. Her hair was damp with sweat, her breathing rapid. It was obvious to Maggie that the girl had just awakened from a harrowing nightmare. Maggie reached out for her and then pulled back when she saw the angry red burns on the teenager's wrists. "Jesus, Tracy, what happened?" Tracy shook her head. There would be time for explanation later. Right then, there was only one thing on her mind. She threw the bedsheets aside and jumped from the bed, quickly donning a pair of jeans and a pair of shoes. "Come on!" she shouted, sprinting for the dormitory door. "Doc is still in there!" Doc Cotto walked into the dimly lit gym, checking each corner, every shadow, trying to see everywhere at once. He rubbed a large hand on the back of his neck and felt the little hairs standing on end as if the very air around him held an electric charge. Where was Tracy? Where was the other, this Freddy? A creaking to his right. Doc looked and saw the heavy punching bag swinging on its chain as if someone had just given it a good whack. Creak. Creak, creak. The heavy bag swung faster and faster, defying the laws of physics. Its arc grew by degrees, each pass longer. Something about the unreality of the thing seemed to make the world shift slightly under his feet. Something so mundane should not act so. He walked forward and caught the bag with both hands, arresting its momentum. When he released it, the bag remained still. Once again, slave to the natural way of things. "Tracy!" he called. The lights flickered, dimmed, and then went out, plunging the room into darkness. A second later, an emergency light came to fitful light, barely brighter than a candle. Shadows seemed to rise up around him, seemed to dance and caper themselves maniacally. Doc felt cold fear flood his veins and fought to control it. That was the key. Remain calm, remain in control. He was the master of his dreams, the master of his reality. To fall apart now would spell certain doom. Doc spied a rack of sports equipment along one wall, walked over and picked up a heavy wooden baseball bat. He hefted it over his shoulder, reassured by its weight. "Doc, is that you?" Tracy's muffled voice coming from somewhere close by. He moved in her direction, but saw no movement. A treadmill and a weight bench became fantastic monsters in the dark, all grabbing arms and sharp teeth. Doc blinked, and they were just sports equipment again. There were no ghoulies or ghosties to be seen. "Yeah, Tracy," he replied. "Where are you?" "I'm here. I'm stuck in one of the lockers. Help me out." The lockers were to his left. He ran to the first and opened it. It was empty. He moved to the second, the third, the fourth, all empty. He came to the last and flung the door open in frantic desperation. Empty. "Tracy, where the hell are you?" "Right here," she said, breath warm on the back of his neck. Doc spun around, nearly fell, and cried out when he saw not Tracy but Freddy standing there watching him. "You taught her well," Freddy said, as the two began to circle each other like a pair of boxers in a ring. "But there's so much more to learn." Freddy swiped at Doc's face. Fast as lightning, Doc leaned back, felt the wind of the razor's passage a millimeter from the tip of his nose, and countered with the baseball bat. The barrel struck Freddy in the center of his face, smashing his teeth, his nose. Doc didn't stop hitting him until he lay in a crumpled heap on the floor. Doc watched the still figure for a moment, kicked Freddy's foot with his own. Surely that couldn't be it. Surely it was not so easy. A low moan issued from the fallen killer. It grew and grew, changed timbre, became a deep, throaty laugh. Doc backed away a step, bat raised to strike as Freddy got to his feet, brushing dirt from his ratty clothing. The wounds inflicted by the bat had vanished, leaving the villain in as good a shape as a burned man could be. He bent, picked up his hat, and placed it back on his head. "Sticks and stones may break my bones," Freddy said, "but nothing will ever kill me." He took a step forward and raised his left hand, his fingers splayed for Doc to see. "Let's see," he said. "First they tried burning me." Slice, he cut his index finger off. Blackish green fluid bubbled up from the stump. Freddy held up his pinky finger. "Next, they tried burying me." Slice, no more pinky. He held up his ring and middle fingers. "And here's my favorite. They even tried holy water." Chop! The ring finger fell to the floor, leaving only Freddy's middle finger shooting Doc a macabre version of a bird. "But I just kept on ticking," Freddy finished. He waved his glove over his mutilated hand. 1 second there was only one finger, the next all were back. Freddy wiggled them in a little hello wave. "They promised me that." "They?" asked Doc. "They," Freddy repeated, as if he were talking to a small child. "The dream people, the ones who gave me this job. You think you know about dreams? You know nothing. In dreams, I am forever. Too bad you're not!" Freddy lunged at Doc, intending to skewer him through the throat and end their discussion permanently. Doc dodged to the side, grabbed for Freddy, and managed to tear a strip from his red and green sweater. He backed away, felt the cold metal of the lockers press against him. He was cornered. He saw an evil gleam bloom in Freddy's terrible eyes as the demon lifted the glove to deliver the killing stroke. A loud bell began to ring, and Doc shot Freddy his own bird. Freddy howled with rage, swung the finger knives, and hit nothing but air. Doc was there for a half-second longer and then vanished into the ether. Freddy stared at the spot where the doctor had been and then kicked the lockers in frustration. Two had escaped him in one night. It couldn't be. It mustn't be. He was hungry for the kill, ravenous, and he would not be denied. "Just you wait," he breathed into the growing dark. "You are going to wish you died here and now. Now would have been easy. It would have been nothing compared to what I'm going to do to you both now." He turned and walked away as the last vestiges of the dream turned to mist and the familiar sounds of his boiler room clanked and hissed into life. Tracy outdistanced Maggie, her powerful legs pumping, driving her along the passage and down the stairs to the basement where Doc's office was. She reached the door, flung it open, and she and Maggie ran in to see Doc Cotto sitting in the chair behind his desk with a blaring alarm clock beside him. He shut it off and then gave them a pitying look. "What? I'm not stupid, you know." He stood and held a ragged piece of red and green cloth out for both of them to see, a wide grin spreading across his face. "And I think we have a way to get him." The street outside the shelter was preternaturally quiet, as if the night held its breath. No stray animal moved, no night bird sang its night songs. A single beetle trundled along the sidewalk, came to the image of Freddy drawn onto the cracked concrete. It put one spindly leg on the picture and rolled over on its back, dead. A crack resounded along the avenue, echoed off the shelter's facade. A bulge appeared in the sidewalk at the intersection of streets. It grew, fractured, and a tall metal street sign emerged. The pole was crooked and bent as a witch's nose. The sign plate at the top bent and speckled with rust, yet still legible. Elm Street. Freddy was right. Every town did have an Elm Street. Okay, Slashaholics, this has been chapters 18 and 19 of Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare by Jeremy Terry. I really enjoyed these chapters. I like the little extras we get with these novelizations, and I'm so happy and thankful that Jeremy has tackled not only Freddy's Dead, which is the only official novelization missing from the Freddy series, but also Friday the 13th Part 8, which I dropped a preview of earlier today, the prologue. Which I'll be narrating that one once I finish some stuff coming up. I've still got to finish The Curse of the Jersey Devil, and I'm going to be putting out narrations of James Acosta's new book, Nightmares. But I hope you enjoyed these two chapters as much as I did. I love Tracy's dream. It's very creepy, and not going to go into details, but I understand the fear she felt in those dreams, and yeah. It's nice that she got to beat the crap out of that visage of her father and outsmart Freddy. Freddy felt a lot darker in these chapters than he did in the movie. Jeremy's done a good job of that, of toning down the MTV comedy Freddy from the movie into more darker, sinister areas of his psyche, like we saw in the earlier movies, and like I tried to do with Celestial Slumber. Jeremy's done a really good balance, of Freddy, sinister and dark, but still with his one-liners and sarcasm and things like that. I love Doc's interaction with Freddy. All great stuff. And chapter 18, where Maggie was having her memory dream of Freddy as her dad and killing her mom. Great scene from the movie. Very well done in the ebook, in the novelization that Jeremy's written. Really enjoying this. I'd love to have a physical copy when it's all said and done. But yeah, let me know what you all thought. Jeremy loves to hear from you as well. If you have any questions for Jeremy, he'd be glad to answer them. Just drop it in the comment section below. Please subscribe, click the like button, click the bell, so you always know when new narrations are dropping. Drop a comment. Love to hear from you. And if you want to support the channel, the best thing you can do is spread the word. But if you want to go the extra mile, you can do a super thanks tip in the comment sections on any videos here on the channel. You can do a super thanks one-time tip through PayPal or Cash App, or become a Patreon or channel member. In fact, if you do that, you get free ebooks and early access to ebook chapters of books that I'm narrating before the chapters are actually narrated on the channel. That's for patrons and channel members. You can also order a copy of one of my books or order a cameo video. All the information to support the channel is in the pinned comment description below, and you can also find more of Jeremy Terry's books on Amazon. There's a link in the description and pinned comment below for his book, The Halloween Massacre, which pitted Michael Myers against Leatherface. That book is also available on the channel in audio form, but if you want to own it, the link is in the description and pinned comment, and it will also take you to more of Jeremy Terry's original works that are available on Amazon. Until next time, this has been your friendly neighborhood 80s slasher librarian saying thanks for listening, be excellent to each other, and as always, pleasant dreams, bitch! I'll see you next time.
Time to wake up, the librarian is back. The librarian is back. The librarian is back in the slasher groove. It's time to wake up, it's time to wake up. No more distractions, no more co-host shows. Just narrating slasher books for slashaholics. I'm done with those damn review shows. Done with being someone's co-host. I'm just narrating slasher books for the slashaholics. I'm done with those damn review shows. Done with being someone's co-host. I'm just narrating slasher books for the slashaholics. And when Jason walks in with his machete, or when you cross paths with Myers, or you dream of Freddy, whatever the tale, I'm gonna read it for you, cause I'm the 80s fucking slasher librarian Josh LaRue. Whatever I read, whatever you hear, there's one thing I'll promise year after year: you're gonna get the best of my best, this I promise you, cause I'm back in that fucking bloody slasher groove. Because the librarian is back in the slasher groove. The librarian is back in that slasher groove. That's a promise from Josh LaRue. Slasher books both old and new, written by me and written by you. Yup, now I'm back, I'm back. No more distractions, no more co-host reviews. Varian is back in that slasher crew, just narrating slasher books for slashaholics. The librarian is back. I even wrote my own take on Jason and Freddy. Started with quarantine and then I was ready, so I sent Krueger to space in celestial slumber. Then Jason went primal and the rafters had his number. My audiobooks have crossed 75. Now let's hit 100 and have a fucking good time. The librarian is back in the slasher groove. The librarian is back in that slasher groove. Just narrating slasher books for slashaholics. The librarian is back. Even wrote my own take on Jason and Freddy. Started with quarantine and then I was ready, so I sent Krueger to space in celestial slumber. Then Jason went primal and the raptors had his number. My audiobooks have crossed 75. Now let's hit 100 and have a fucking good time. The librarian is back in the slasher groove, just narrating slasher books for slashaholics. The librarian is back. The librarian is back in the slasher crew. It's time to wake up. It's time to wake up. No more distractions. My own take on Jason and Freddy. Started with quarantine and then I was ready, so I sent Krueger to space in celestial slumber. Then Jason went primal and the rafters had his number. My audiobooks have crossed 75. Now let's hit 100 and have a fucking good time. The librarian is back in the slasher groove, just narrating slasher books for slasher both old and new, written by me and written by you. Now I'm back, no more distractions. No more distractions. No more distractions. No more co-host review shows.